the moment. Please welcome Dennis Dawson for part two of today's presentation, which is Death by PowerPoint.
Well, it was death by PowerPoint, but I like my alliteration. So we'll
I like
say
this better too.
prevent PowerPoint punishment, please. Now, back when I first started giving presentations, okay, funny, Jeff, funny. Okay, I'm talking about the 80s, the 1980s. Okay, that's better. When I first started doing live training, we used actual slides for our presentations. People would gather in the dark to watch and read as we droned on. It was a boon when we had the ability to create overhead transparencies with a laser printer, comparatively cheap and quick to produce. Now, we tended to load lots of information onto one slide because it could be expensive and time consuming to create the plastic pages. When we made the switch to PowerPoint, most of us stuck to the style we knew, which led to the phenomenon we now know as death by PowerPoint. Sitting and watching someone read from a list of bullets is the seventh circle of hell. Now, this layout that you see here is being used by more and more companies. It's not intended for presentations, but we're going to keep seeing these. This is what Nancy Duarte, the author of Slideology, calls sliduments. Okay, now the first rule, no font in your presentation should be smaller than 18 points. Guy Kawasaki suggests that you divide the age of the oldest member of your audience by 3, so if you're presenting to me, use 22 point or higher. Now, these slides are the leading cause of death by PowerPoint, scientifically proven by Richard Mayer, the multimedia learning expert. Now, one would think that putting words on screen and reading them aloud would enhance learning, but the opposite is true. When I put words on the screen, they enter your visual channel, and the brain converts the pictures of the letters to words, which are then redirected to the verbal channel. You end up with 2 verbal inputs competing for your brain's attention. The same information comes in at different rates, and that creates cognitive overload. Now, when I combine visual images with verbal information, both flow into the brain through independent channels. That's why you should share just one idea per slide. The title is a complete sentence with a subject and a verb, and an image that's easy to grok, something you can figure out in 2 or 3 seconds. Your audience gets the gist of what you're about to say, then they'll listen to you instead of reading the slide. Try this and you'll get that lean-in effect you want from your audience. Even Microsoft is aware of this problem. They produced this book, Beyond Bullet Points. Cliff Atkinson's method of assembling a slide deck is useful for new presenters, but it has a lot to offer even old-timers like me. Here's his approach. You start with a grabber section, a hook. See, the hook is an interesting quote or a startling statistic. Explain the relevance of the topic to your audience. The challenge is an issue that the audience is facing right now, and the desire is where they hope to be in the future. The map describes how you will take the audience on a journey from where they are to where they want to be. At the bottom, you state your intended takeaway in one sentence, the big idea that everyone should walk away with. Now you add your 3 main points in the cells on the left. The rule of 3 holds true in your presentations. Not 4, not 2, unless you proceed to a 3rd point. 5 points, right out. These slides would work for a 5-minute presentation, just the way you see it here. But what if you have more time? You can expand to another column, where you provide 3 supporting justifications for each of your main points. Now you've got a 15-minute presentation. Oh, but what if you've got more time still? You can add 3 detailed slides for each of your supporting points. This would support a 45-minute presentation. Now, take your points from the spreadsheet and create a slide for each one of those points. I followed the color scheme of my company when I created this presentation template. So I used the dark blue for the main points, a lighter blue for the subordinate points, and then white for the points that supported the supporting points. All right. Now, when you use a color code like this, it helps the audience to follow the structure, but it has another nifty advantage. You may have been in a situation, as I have been, where you were told you've got half hour to 45 minutes to speak, but because other people took too much time or there are other reasons for shifting the time, you've only got 15 minutes. Well, what you can do is go through and skip all of the slides with the white backgrounds. You do that, and you've taken your 45-minute presentation and immediately reduced it down to 15. And if you hide all of the light blue slides, and you've only got your 5-minute presentation. That flexibility can really help you out in a pinch. So if you ever want help with any presentation in PowerPoint, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to take a look at it for you. I highly recommend the books Beyond Bullet Points by Cliff Atkinson and Slideology. You got ideology in there. It's a clever little name by Nancy Duarte. And these are the people that I rely on. These are the people that taught me how to do a proper PowerPoint slideshow. And I hope that other people will pick this up and we will see the end of death by PowerPoint in our lifetime. And at this point, I'm happy to take questions or discussion. I actually learned about death by PowerPoint and how to avoid it in Toastmasters from Nicole Dupuy. I saw her do a PowerPoint presentation. It had nothing but graphics. There were no words on any of the slides. And if you look at a TED Talk typically has got 14 words in the entire 18-minute slide deck when people use slides. So the whole idea of just using images is really effective because at that point people are listening to you talk. They're not reading what you're saying on the screen.
I have a question about this. How do you fold in when your presentation requires having data on the slides? For instance, you're doing a financial report.
What you want to do is put the minimal amount of information, something again that can be grokked in 2 to 3 seconds. So instead of having a bar chart that's got 15 numbers and the labels and the percentages going all along with them, just pick the 1 or 2 main data points and only show those. Or if you want to show that, you're comparing 1 to 15 different items, display the one that is most important to you, the highest or lowest or whichever, and label that one, but don't label all the others. Keep the number of words, keep the amount of reading to bare minimum so that people are listening to what you say. And then you can describe what these other columns stand for.
So essentially, it's not about the data and the numbers themselves, it's the results and what you want the audience to conclude.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And yeah, definitely the thing I learned today was the bit with the color coding, because I never thought of that. And we do have from last year a number of at least one copy of this book. Well, the Slideology book, available. And we haven't figured out how to deliver them because at the time we were thinking about giving them away at DECA when we did this presentation, but the presentation is going to do this year. So we may do something with that, but possibly we'll have this at the conference or something like that. We'll have to discuss. But do we have other questions for Dennis?
This is Marilyn. Yes. I have a question. How you divided up the slides. The first, the dark blue slides were the major points of the presentation.
Yes. Hmm.
And then the medium blue was the next level of detail
Yes.
on each one. And then the white was getting into the nitty gritty on each of the points.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I got that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Obviously, the colors are the colors you choose. Again,
Yeah.
I was following it
I
too.
get it.
Yeah.
Right. Right. You said that. It was the color scheme of your company,
Right.
but that was very good idea. Thank you. And it's interesting that you can time your presentation that way too. It's kind of a great point, great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah. Deborah makes a very good point that uh, you can share data separately in handouts. And that one slide that I showed you that had the columns of data, again, that's a slide unit. There's nothing wrong with using a template like that for creating a brochure, something that you would hand out, something that people can read at their leisure at some other time. But you don't want to put it onto the slideshow because if people are reading, they are not listening. And also, again, people will often read ahead, and as a result, uh, they've finished the slide when you're halfway through talking about it, and now they're bored waiting for you to catch up.
Yes.
Also, they're confused because they're like, okay, where is he and where am I, in relation to where I am? I find that, I've always found that in my college coursework, professors who would put so much stuff on the slide or say, take notes on this. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to scurry in notes. And by the time my brain is finished writing the note, I missed two or three sentences, which could or could not have been important.
Right. Yeah. Very often, I find this happening when I'm seeing somebody's death by PowerPoint presentation. I'm trying to capture all of the notes based on what they have written there. And they're talking, I'm not listening to them. And then they change the slide before I've gotten all the information written down. So anytime you see somebody holding up their phone to take a picture of the PowerPoint slide, you know you've got too much information on the slide.
I'm sorry, I was just at a conference where I was holding my phone up every time they spoke.
Yeah. And that's the terrible thing is that uh, Nancy Duarte's book came out in 2005. This is not new stuff. Uh, Multimedia learning was a real eye opener for me. This is a book, what's his name? Richard Mayer. Oh, it
We
disappears
can't
now.
see it with the
Yeah, yeah. So let me turn off my.
Just put it in front of your body. I think it works.
Yeah. I'm just going to. There we go. Unblurred background. Oh my God! Now you know how I live. I live in squalor. There we go. Yes,
I
multimedia
resemble that
learning
remark.
by Richard Mayer. Uh, Fascinating stuff. It turns out that for most of my professional career, I've been doing a lot of things right and a few things wrong, like really wrong. Uh, for example, having music in the background of an educational video. You know, I like writing the music. I like playing the music. It's wonderful. But any music is going to interfere with the ability of people to listen to what you're saying. So have some intro music, and but don't have anything playing at the same time as you're speaking. And I have also heard people adding sound effects. You know, if it's a you're doing a war story and they put sound effects of the battle in the background, that is going to distract from the person's ability to listen to what you're saying. So be very careful about that. Uh, Many times people are doing multimedia presentations. So even when you're giving a speech as a Toastmaster, uh, you'll have music or something playing in the background while you're trying to speak. It's just a really bad idea. So again, Richard Mayer, multimedia learning. Uh, really, what the point I was making, yeah, I learned a few things I was doing wrong, but I was doing many things right. And I never had the vocabulary, I never had the scientific information to back up these things that I was doing, adding humor to my presentations. Uh, yeah, is a big thing for me. I thought I was just making it more entertaining. It turns out it helps it to flow into the brain and stick more readily when you are adding a little bit of humor, when you're adding personal anecdotes, even to very technical information. And so now I can go back and say, look, science says that this makes it work much better. Another book I really like is Learning How to Learn by Barbara Oakley. And this also is a great book talking about the scientific reasons that jokes and humor actually make it learning easier and more effective for people. So,
Have you ever read anything by Edward Tufte?
no,
Yes.
but Jeff has.
Okay,
Visual presentations.
right, right. I just was thinking as you're describing all this, I'm thinking about that because he's taught people how to display information without being overwhelming, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Edward Tufte stuff is about presenting data in particular, which is why I
right,
asked the question that I did. And I have to say that I took the shortcut, so to speak, is I learned a lot of my current PowerPoint presentation skills from Dennis. So,
right.
and the idea here is that what you put on the slide is what you get. And I see Deborah's comment about animations are great, but should be on the same side. What do, what do you mean by the same side? Or
Coming in from the same direction. When
oh,
they're
gotcha.
coming in
Okay.
from opposite directions, they begin to distract the viewer because now they're like anticipating, hey, where is this coming from? When they know things are coming in the same direction, it takes less of the distraction in terms of focusing on something other than what the presentation is. But animations can be very helpful if you're doing like three words for the slide, you have them coming in as you're speaking so
But
that
it's
you can
less
do that.
visually, just you're saying it's less visually distracting.
Right.
Yeah,
If it's coming in from different sides. And that's also
it's
something
good.
and I mentioned about sign language. I've worked with sign language interpreters before where they
Interesting.
ask the image to be on the same side. Our brain now knows to focus on this side for this information so they're not having to battle different kinds of input. It becomes expected. So it's easier to process the information.
Mm.
I learned something today. Dennis, you want to take a moment to, oh, you're going somewhere for a second, or
I was going to run and get a book, but go ahead. What were you
okay.
saying?
I was going to say the question was, can you speak on the do's and don'ts of animating your slide?
Uh, uh, yeah, as far as animations go, animations are great. It's great to emphasize a particular point or what have you. Deborah makes a really good point about having them be consistent from slide to slide so that you're training your audience on what to look for. And if you've got every slide has got, a different transition or what have you, and sometimes it's spinning and sometimes it's flipping and sometimes it's zooming in and out, all of that becomes a distraction. So it's a better idea to choose the same transition between each slide, unless there's a particular animation that you're trying to achieve, an effect that you're trying to achieve for one particular slide. Now,
Okay, yeah, because I know when I put animation on my slides, like I kind of did today, is I tend to keep the slide blank until the pertinent picture that I need is part of what I'm about saying there. So,
right. You don't want the animation to be running continually. You don't want it to. You want it to punctuate what you're about to say, and not sit there and distract.
yes. All right. And while you're looking for your book, I will talk about one of the other books you had there, which was Stories That Stick. And that is one of my personal favorites. It really condenses the idea of storytelling down to a single word, keying up a story, in the sense that whatever your story is, it should be your value add, the things you've changed. And I can't remember at the top of the head the rest of it, but it's changed the way I give speeches in the sense that whatever your topic for your presentation is, if you have your go-to speeches that are based off of the keywords, the delivery and your presentation, your slides are a lot smoother to go with it because you know the story. You're not reading off of your slides at all if you can avoid it. But other than that, I would say that one thing I've learned this year, because the last year for having to give so many presentations, one per month for the most part, is there is something to be said about writing your notes on the bottom of the slides. And if you can learn to get past your reading from your notes voice versus your performance voice, it basically makes the presentation a lot smoother. And like I mentioned, this is our third time through this, and the first time was a lot clunky. This one, I think, is the first time we've gotten this pretty on point for the most part. And we're doing this again tomorrow for another club. All
Yes,
right, found
do
your book,
tell
Dennis?
do tell your friends that if you want us to bring the Pathways Roadshow to your club, we're happy to do that. We will arrange
Oh,
it to the best of our ability. Deborah reminded me of things I learned from this book, Cinematic Storytelling, which is about making movies, obviously, or videos. But when we start talking about how things move on the screen, when things move up and to the right, it's difficult. When things move down and to the left, then it's easy. Okay, going downhill. And this book has got examples of how this is used to create storytelling, cinematic effects. And you can do the same thing when you're animating in PowerPoint or what have you, as far as which direction things come in and whether they're traveling upwards or traveling down. So it's great if you're in control of it, but what you can you can inadvertently say, "Hey, this is easy," but if you have it traveling up and to the right in the animation, then it looks difficult, and it creates cognitive dissonance for the
hmm.
people in your audience. So you want to be careful as you're doing these animations that you're not actually saying the opposite visually with your animation of the point that you're trying to make. And this, again, cinematic storytelling, great book. Lots of fun to flip through. It's got examples from movies like Citizen Kane. All the you're going to recognize the movies that they reference in the book and realize how they were telling stories in a cinematic fashion.
That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Dennis,
and
Dennis, I have a question. I,
go
I
ahead.
just had a brain freeze there while you were speaking. Unfortunately, I was distracted a little bit. So you want things to go from top to bottom, left to right?
If
Is that what is that
if
what you said?
if you've got a animation that's going down and to the left, then that's going to seem easy. If you got something that's going upward and to the right, then that's going to seem more difficult. And so you want to be sure that because it looks like you're traveling uphill, right? Okay.
Hmm.
I see.
Yeah, and so it's funny how there are these tropes that we see in movies, and directors are aware of this, cinematographers, and so they will set scenes in a particular way that aid the storytelling. But you have to be careful if you're just throwing animations here and there. The animation you use can say the opposite of what you mean in the text of your slide.
Thank you.
Dennis,
That's very clear.
quick question, Dennis. When you were giving your presentation earlier, and you were talking about starting with a hook, and you had a bunch of different words on the left side of the page. One of them, so you said start with a hook, and then other words were relevance, challenge, desire, and map. What was that symbolizing?
Uh, the first 5 slides in your presentation.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so you want to get a hook, a startling statement. Then you want
Mm-hmm.
to state the situation that your audience is currently in, and then so this is the current state of things. You want to talk about how things could be better, and then you want to have a slide that is the map from uh, the state that things are today and how you get to the state of the things you
Oh, I
want
see.
things to be. So that's
For almost for any topic you're going to cover, is what you're saying.
yeah.
Follow-up question to that. Where does your speaker introduction slide and your agenda slide go?
The agenda comes after the first 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaker introduction slide. Ideally, you don't have a speaker introduction in your presentation. When you go to a conference or what have you, somebody introduces you as the speaker. Always better to have someone else introduce you, because if you get up and say, I'm Dennis Dawson, I've got 3 DTMs, and I'm a past district governor and a current club growth director, then everybody in the audience says, oh, boom, big deal. Yeah, right. But if someone says Dennis Dawson is a 3-time DTM, everybody goes, oh, yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you don't want to introduce yourself. Always have somebody else introduce you.
the only time I think that there might be a reason for doing this is if you are essentially launching a company and this is your founder story and it's part of your opening hook. Then I've seen that to be effective. But your opinion may differ on that.
Yeah. Well, if it's your founder story and people in the room don't know who you are, that would be a problem.
Well, this is for a pitch for a bunch of investors. And
Mhm.
each of the people doing the presentation had to introduce themselves and their company and what their product was in 5 minutes or less.
Yeah. Well, in a situation like that, uh, I would introduce myself in an anecdote.
Yes,
I,
that's what they
I,
did.
I would tell an origin story. Yeah. Yeah. And